Welcome back, 47. Your targets are two members of Liberation, a doomsday cult planning an attack in Bangkok. Specifically, cult leader Oybek Nabazov and his second-in-command, Sister Yıldız.
I need to get to school, but I'm going to record this first because I'm a dumb piece of shit who somehow puts more importance on something that doesn't make me money as opposed to something that is an investment for the future. I have to yawn again. Alright, I yawned. Oh yeah, Hitman, here we go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm reviewing Hitman, or Hitman Season 1, or Hitman Game of the Year Edition, or Hitman 2016, or Hitman Definitive Edition. Point is, I'm reviewing that one game that came out in March 2016. Or at least Episode 1 came out in March 2016, and the rest came out after that. Hitman was developed by IO Interactive and published by Square Enix. Warner Bros. Interactive did the publishing for the Definitive Edition. The game was directed by three folks. Remember these names I got just off the sidebar real quick on the main Wikipedia page. So if I'm wrong, I do apologize. But yeah, so directed by three folks, Christian Elverdam, Jacob Mickelson, and Ryan Barnard. The game was written by Michael Vode. I've always been a fan of the Hitman series since Blood Money, since that was the first game I was able to play. I think when Blood Money came out, I was 10, and I think I was just blown away by the entire idea of a third-person stealth action game. I believe it was my first time entering that genre. My whole life, I've usually just played shooters, first-person shooters or third-person shooters, and I instantly fell in love with the idea of what was essentially a puzzle game. When Absolution came out, the game took a weird turn towards something that felt like it was more action-based, but I didn't give up hope on the series. And I felt the same with the other games. You know, when I played the HD remaster, I liked the idea, but Blood Money was just still the best. This game, on the other hand, felt like a return to Blood Money, which I feel was like the best the series ever was. Because Blood Money introduced me into so much more, I figured I'd go ahead and just pre-order this game. And I did, and I played the first 3 levels, but then I just dropped it for some other game. Hitman 2016 takes place after Hitman Absolution and follows Agent 47 taking on contracts for certain clients until a pattern is detected. That's it. I know my synopsis is garbage, but I can't really say much more because I don't know much more, and any details are probably spoiler territory. Alright, so before I go into my review, I feel like I should give some of the scores from other video game places so you know the overall consensus of the game. Metacritic gave the overall season an 84 out of 100. GameSpot gave the overall season an 8 out of 10. And IGN gave each episode a score, which is dumb. So go look them up if you want to really know. But I never understood that. How are you going to judge a game or a series based on one episode? It doesn't make sense to me. Anyways, as for me, I'm trying to start heading away from giving games a numerical score. But some folks still like that for simplicity. And so for me, Hitman Game of the Year Season 1 Definitive Edition, a 2016 sequel to Hitman Absolution, gets an 8 out of 10. But, you know, if I didn't have to give it a score and just overall just say, would I ever replay it? Absolutely. Would I ever recommend it to a friend? If they're a fan of stealth or puzzle games, absolutely. Alrighty, let's go into this thing.
Fine. Fuck him. I do whatever you want. What the fuck do you want me to do?
Just this.
Something I didn't like about Hitman Absolution was that it was too linear. You moved from one section to another and it was just a straight line. Blood Money was more of just one big level they threw you into and you could wander around figuring shit out. This game returns to that idea, and although there is only 6 levels, these levels are massive, with multiple ways of approaching your objective. Hitman at its core is a puzzle game. You can run and gun, but there's no satisfaction in either the gameplay mechanics or in completing the mission that way. The game allows it, but it just wasn't built for it. It's almost like living in your Toyota Camry. It's not comfortable, and it wasn't meant for it, but if you gotta, you can. Anyways, the game's big sandbox levels allow for so much creativity and ways of approach. You can do the entire mission in just your suit and sneak around. You can dress up as a police officer and enter restricted areas. You can become a chef and poison the food. You can cause an accident. You can hide somewhere and snipe your target. Now at first, when you see the amount of challenges for a level, it's easy to get thrown off, but as you explore the level, you'll notice, holy shit, there is a lot I can do here. It also helps to make playthroughs unique to the player. There will be similar tactics that you and a friend might use to do something initially, but there's so much variety that it's unlikely you'll ever approach a mission the same exact way as each other. As I write this, I watched my own gameplay footage along with another no commentary gameplay on YouTube, and I already noticed a difference in approach. Now, I mentioned this game is a puzzle game at its core, and I fundamentally believe that. And duh, I mean, why else would I say that if I didn't believe it? But your approach to your target will never be a simple A to B, and then that's it. You have to be tactical. You have to be mindful of your surroundings. I don't know why I just randomly got boogers in my nose. I'm gonna start crying. This game is so good. You have to time things correctly. If you cause an accident, you better make sure the timing is good. Otherwise, you'll draw attention for nothing. If you take someone's clothes to use as a disguise, there are actual people who know they're employees, as well as there are just places where that disguise cannot take you. For example, in the last level in Japan, you can disguise yourself as a food prep. The chef will recognize you because, come on, he's the chef. He probably fucking hired you. But at the same time, while the food prep can get you around the kitchen and some staff areas, it won't let you into the VIP areas or, into the morgue or basement, because what is the food prep doing down here? In other games that force you to think tactically, it's usually a game that is actively working against you, like XCOM, or when you play a puzzle game, you either solve it or you fail. Hitman is the outlier, which is why it resonated with me. It forced me to use my brain like a puzzle game, but if I fuck up, I could quickly fix my mistakes or find a different approach immediately. Unlike XCOM, where the game is actively working against you, in this game, Agent 47 is very much a snake in the grass. Whatever you're walking into is merely just happening. Nobody's working against you. When you go into that party or military training compound, they're not expecting an assassin to come in, which adds to the overall realism, I suppose. I know it's not already realistic, but it makes you more of an assassin. It makes you feel more like an assassin.
Fine. Fuck him. I do whatever you want. What the fuck do you want me to do?
Just this.
Granted, I was a mere child when I got around to Hitman 2 and Contracts, but I just found those games to be incredibly difficult. And I don't think I'm alone, because I watched older reviews of it, and they've mentioned basically the same thing. The controls were wonky, but a lot of the time I was just overwhelmed. And with Absolution, I was barely in my teens. I think I also found that game to be pretty challenging because it wasn't one big level. It was just a level cut up into sections, and you couldn't really go back. I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, as soon as you went through one section, the section behind you closed off. So once you just made your way into an area, I guess that was really it. And Hitman Blood Money, on the other hand, was great in that the levels were approachable in ways that I find just hard to describe. The good controls also helped. They were super simple. That said, there were times where, again, I was a kid. I was trying to figure it out, and I would just stand there like a fucking moron. Hitman 2016 is a great way for both veterans and newcomers to come aboard with the controls the best they've ever been. And all players have to do is all they have to do is worry about their approach. I guess the teenager in me is coming out. Veterans can just do their thing and do it however they like. For newcomers, the intel system gives them hints or ideas to approach a level in a more guided manner. During my playthrough, I did both. I would use that intel and sometimes follow it to a fault, and other times I use that intel to just make my own way. It introduced me to new mechanics, sometimes new ways to kill a target, or I just learned about the level as a whole. The game is still challenging though, don't get me wrong. Just because you're given a possible way to assassinate your target doesn't mean the game holds your hand. You still have to time things correctly or keep an eye on your surroundings. In fact, you can also miss these opportunities if you don't act in time. For example, sometimes the game might give you a perfect place to get a disguise. It doesn't mean you could just run up to them and take them out and grab that disguise. You'll still have to find a way to lure them away from the public eye. And if you don't do it in time, that opportunity could be lost forever. Having done both with Intel and just played without any of those hints or whatever, just by myself, I can assure you that it's still very satisfying to complete your objective, either way. And I'm really glad this game had the opportunity system because it just overall allows for more people into the game while also showing veterans new ways to approach the game objective level. Plus, the more challenges you do, I don't know, I got scared there. I just got randomly scared. The more challenges you do, you also unlock more starting positions and equipment, which will add a constant variety to approaching your target.
Fine. Fuck him. I do whatever you want. What the fuck do you want me to do?
Just this.
The story's a little bare bones, and I wasn't a big fan of it. I mean, for all the shit I'm tossing at Absolution, I think I liked that story as much as I liked Blood Money. In Absolution, there's almost a personal stake in it. You want to save this little girl from suffering the same fate as you. In Blood Money, you take on a bunch of seemingly random contracts, but they all lead up into this overall conspiracy. Hitman 2016 feels like a bad copy of Blood Money. It's almost like they needed something to just pull it all together. And don't get me wrong, the cutscenes were so beautifully animated and sounding that I actually looked forward to them every time I finished a level. But when I actually finished the game, I was just disappointed. That said, it's important to note that this is technically only Season 1. So Season 2 hopefully picks up where this left off and does more with it. But yeah, this game's like just a weird copy of Blood Money. Maybe not so much bad copy, just a really weird copy of Blood Money. There's like a bunch of seemingly random contracts on people that are all actually horrible monsters, but then there's something that ties them all together. They all have a shadow client, so someone hired someone else to put a contract on these pieces of shit. I thought it was interesting and all, but I'll tell you right now, there was just no resolution at the end of it because it was so bare bones, with so little detail. Just that ending wasn't gripping at all. It wasn't like, oh, what's gonna happen next? They did touch upon Agent 47's past, which is still one of the most interesting stories I think of just about any video game character to date, which was cool, but again, it was just so bare bones that it's just really difficult to get hyped. I just wish that they touched a little more on everything. You know, explain a little bit more of the ICA, explain a little bit more about Providence, Diana, Agent 47, etc. I mean, I wouldn't have minded a refresher or maybe some fleshing out on certain aspects. That said, I'm also really happy that the game didn't shy away from its past. The prologue is one of my favorite moments of that entire series because it's almost like a love letter to the series. So while the overall story didn't grab me by the balls, at least I'm just excited overall to see where it goes.
Fine. Fuck him. I do whatever you want. What the fuck do you want me to do?
Just this.
As a game, like just as a video game, Hitman is pretty good. The mechanics are the best the series has seen. It's tight, comfortable, accurate, and simple. Hold one button to do this. Press the button on screen to do that. Hitman 2 and Contracts were hard for me to play because I was a kid. And I had played Blood Money so much that I had memorized it. So when I got a chance to play those two, those games felt very stiff. They felt very outdated. Absolution felt more like a sneaking around game than a Hitman game. You had a meter to tip your hat so enemies wouldn't see your face. And then that bullet time feature where time slowed down and you can shoot multiple enemies. I still don't understand that. The Hitman series has like... It always looked down upon like just... It was never a shooter. So why would you implement a shooting a shooter mechanic basically? Why would you implement bullet time? Anyways, Hitman 2016 feels like a decent third-person shooter, but like I said, the game wasn't built for that. Hitman is in a genre of its own, and I can't really compare to it. I can't really compare it to anything else. But all I can say is that this feels like the best it can be. Sneaking around feels good, walking around in disguise and blending in feels natural. The NPC dialogue feels a little too common, in that you'll hear like the same shit over and over again. But overall, it's also unique to your actions. Like when you're in Paris at the fashion show, if you try to enter a restricted area at first, the guard will say, "Hey, nice tux, man, but wrong party. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." I mean, I thought that was pretty cool. They didn't have to do that. It could have just easily been a guard just putting his hand up, going, "Nope, don't come in." But you know, there's like a line for it. The voice acting for the main characters are pretty good. They're all right for the NPCs. I have no complaints, especially since sometimes you just need to actually hear the dialogue for some like juicy intel. So it wasn't bad. The game also looks the best in the series, but that's not a surprise. That's not a surprise since the last Hitman game was on the PlayStation 3. So we have come a long way from then. In fact, I expected it to look amazing. The cutscenes, though, those are some of the absolute best I've ever seen in any game. It reminded me of the Yakuza games, where you see these cutscenes and these people, and you see like actual facial features. Like they aren't just some like beautiful, perfect people that someone designed, and it's like, oh, this is beautiful woman, this is beautiful man. You can actually like see like the flaws in their face, like the dents in their head. It looks really good. There isn't a lot of emotion in this game, but due to the nature of everyone's job, that's not really surprising. But you can actually kind of sort of see like the uptight mood of Diana as a handler, or that hint of fear of your target in the first post-level cutscene. Like the guy's actually afraid for a second. He's like, whoa. I think the only one without any emotion or distinct facial features is Agent 47. But he's a clone, literally engineered to kill. So it actually makes sense for him to not be distinguishable in either visually or vocally. I mean, it's just a shame that like, oh, I'm a clone engineered to kill wasn't said in the game, though. It could have been nice. Just be like, oh, hey, yeah, he's a clone. Let's show you this cool fucking backstory with these new cutscenes and these new graphics.
If the gun you're holding is as cheap as this one, even if you could manage to shoot her in the eye, and I'm not saying you could, you wouldn't kill her.
Hitman 2016's story leaves a lot to be desired, but the gameplay is the best the series has seen, with a return to either its roots or at the very least a return to the best entry in the series. The levels are limited, but they are large, and how you approach it is entirely up to you. While at first it may be daunting, the game offers you enough help to curb that feeling of helplessness, but it doesn't hold your hand enough so you can develop your own confidence. Basically, it doesn't hold your hand or like guide you like you're going to go this way. The controls and mechanics all seem to weave seamlessly and make for a good experience. This kind of game, however, is just something you don't just play when you're bored. It does require thinking and a certain level of focus, so that is something to consider. While I love this series and this type of game, it's important to note that even for me, sometimes I'm just not in the mood to think. So, would I ever play this game again? Absolutely. In fact, I am currently streaming it as of right now. I plan on returning to it to vary my approaches and make use of the different DLCs and story. The replay value is extraordinary with the DLC, the different approaches of the main campaign, and user-created contracts. Which is basically, you can go into a level and basically create your own contract and then upload it to the World Wide Web, and other players can play it. So the replay value is absolutely there. Would I ever recommend this game to my friends? Hell yeah. It's different. With the exception of Metal Gear Solid, I can't really think of another game that does this whole stealth Hitman thing well. All that said, there are times where the game can use improvement, but for what it was, I really dug this entry. Again, I don't want to put too much emphasis on a numerical score of a game anymore, but for those who are just still interested in just a simple number, Hitman 2016 gets an 8.
I have found that whoever wields the sword decides who holds the pen.
Out of 10.